Hey guys, welcome back to Tomorrow 16 where I suffer for your entertainment. Today we're testing a new CPU. Today we're using the AMD Ryzen 3 2200G with Vega integrated graphics. It's the Vega 8 to be specific. You know I tested 2 GB of RAM with Intel HD graphics before, so now we've upped the ante. We're doing 4 GB on this one on AMD's side just to see what happens. Simply, because I don't have 2 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Whoops, my bad. Regardless, the Vega is much faster than the Intel HD series, so I'm extremely curious to see how those same titles, yes, I will be testing the same titles. You can go check out that video, link will be in the description, and somebody should pop on screen for you right now showing you it. For that video where I tested a bunch of those games, a lot of them didn't, some of them didn't run with 2, we have 4, so I imagine a lot more will. So let's get into it. Every game today will be run on an SSD. Everything is standard clock speeds. The Vega 8, once again, it came out in 2018. It cost me $40 to buy this, which isn't bad. Apparently it started at $99 when it first came out. $40 isn't bad for this level of performance when I run it at 16 gigs. Let's see what 4 gigs can do. Let's get into some of those benchmarks, and hopefully I don't cry myself to sleep again. First up, once again, we have Hades, and at 720p, this runs amazingly well. Like, it is crazy how well this damn thing runs. The Vega 8 is so much faster. I didn't know how much faster. It is really fast. Anyway, we're running with 4 GB of RAM once again. 512 megabytes are actually set to the VRAM cache, so we're not even running with that much. We're running actually 3.4. But it seems like this will be enough to get Hades to run no questions asked at 60 FPS practically all of the time. So, with 4 GB of RAM, Bright Memory Infinite did run on the Vega 8. We managed to run it at 720p low with a 50% resolution scale, which is basically 360p, and it wasn't great. I wouldn't call it playable, guys, but to be fair, we could have gone lower if I had tweaked the config file. But regardless, this is just natively, and well, I must say this wasn't the smoothest experience. It got better as I kept shooting, but I still wouldn't consider this playable, unfortunately, guys. Another one that ran well was Tomb Raider 2013. I was actually surprised by the frame rate we were getting here, but at 720p low, the game was hovering over 60 FPS, more so over the higher 50s on average. As you can see, it says 55 FPS on average. So this one actually was a smooth experience. Tomb Raider 2013 can run on practically blasted everything. The last time I tested this on the Intel HD 620, I used 960 by 540, which netted me over 30. So I thought, you know what, let's do 720p here, and it definitely did pay off. It's only using 2 gigabytes of RAM, dude. You can run this with 2 gigs of RAM. Literally, you can run this with 2 gigs of RAM. This one will be a great experience. The original Watch Dogs also ran here with the Vega 8, unlike the Intel HD 620 with 2 gigs of RAM. At 800 by 600 on the low preset, we are getting over 40 FPS on average once again. This one was also playable. We did take place in the warehouse, but I don't think it's going to get that much worse outside. This is the original Watch Dogs after all. I am playing the DLC Bad Blood, which I thought would have been more action oriented, quicker, and the game seemed to have no issues. We did get some 1% lows, as you can see, 14, but other than that, once again, we're running with 4 gigabytes of RAM. What do you expect? I still have nightmares about Dragon's Inquisition on the Intel HD 620 with 2 gigabytes of RAM. At 720p low on this one though, holy crap, we are seeing a much higher improvement. I must say though, the lack of RAM isn't great for the loading time. The loading times are ridiculous in Dragon's Inquisition. It took way too long. It took like 5 minutes to load into the game. It made no sense. But other than that, with 4 gigabytes of RAM, the game is playable. It's just about playable. I do see that there are issues even with 4 gigabytes. I kind of feel like you still need more, unfortunately, but it's better than 2. With Batman Arkham Origins, we were seeing over 60 FPS on average for this one. Batman Arkham Origins was playing quite well, I must say. At 720p low, I had no issues with the 4 gigabytes of RAM as well. This is a game from 2013, I believe. 2013, man, you could run some games at 4 gigs even back then. It was insane. As you can see, the VRAM is only using 269, so the RAM is only using 2.6 gigabytes of RAM. That is awesome. At 2 gigabytes, it really made the Intel HD 620 struggle, but with 4 gigs on a Vega 8, this is going to be amazing. Like, I probably could have put the settings up to medium, and I would have had a great time.
Commissioner Lowe. Maybe one of his men knows where he's headed.
This is Captain James Gordon with the GC. And I am assuming
These are Black Mask's men. I'll make them tell me where I can find Black Mask.
Unfortunately, with Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition, even with the 4 gigabytes of RAM, it seems 720p just couldn't cut it with this one. We are getting over 30 FPS here, but it was like under 20 at 720p. So 960 by 540 low, we are getting about 36 FPS on average. 720p was hovering in the 20s. We couldn't really play it back then, so it's unfortunate. And obviously, this is the Definitive Edition, so it's more demanding than the original. If you really want to play this, I would tell you get the original. Okay, it's just way too demanding. Remember Me also ran much better here with the Vega 8 with the 4 gigabytes of RAM, even though it didn't really need it. At 720p low, we were seeing over 50 FPS on average with this game, even in the combat scenarios. So I would say that this one is going to also be playable, even with 4 gigabytes of RAM. This is a game that I think came out in 2012 or 2013. I get confused with these ones specifically, I'm not too sure, but even with the 4 gigabytes of RAM, you're gonna have a great time.
justification for the error is caused.
Who's that?
Okay, you...
Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2 also ran incredibly well here on the system. We're actually running this one at 720p medium. The only game I didn't run on low. We ran at medium for this one because it has issues with the normal settings in the game. You change them, it kind of crashes the system. So I had to change it through the config, but at 720p medium, as you can see, we are averaging 35 FPS on average, I would say, when playing this game. The 1% lows are at 30. That's awesome, so it doesn't dip below. That is great. Once again, the VRAM, actually we haven't run out of RAM. We're using 2.1 gigabytes of RAM and only 321 megabytes of VRAM. So we still have room to run with the rest of the RAM on the 4 gigs. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Not really, these are old games, man. And once again, reaching the final benchmark, we have Devil May Cry 2013, which was running actually really well on the Intel HD 620. Even with the 2 gigabytes of RAM, we were getting stutters. With the 4 gigs, the stutters are completely gone. This game will run completely fine here with 4 gigs of RAM at 720. We're getting over 60 FPS on average. So basically, this will be a smooth experience. Now, from what I can tell, conclusion time. This has been pretty awesome. With 4 gigabytes of RAM, you can run a lot of these games from like 2014 and backwards at over 30 FPS, even at 720p, which with the Intel HD graphics, you cannot. So this was actually a pretty great improvement with the AMD Ryzen chips with the integrated graphics. It's just such a step up from the Intel HD. It's crazy, dude. Like, you could actually have great experiences with these here back in the day. Obviously, once again, this came out in 2018, but I mean, just think about it. If you want to play these old games, you could on this and have a great experience. But once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. You guys got a video recommendation you'd like to see me pause? Leave a comment down below. I may get to it. I'll see you guys next time.